apart from the way you're wrapping it. So sometimes they build the pad first and they put it on the hand. This time you have to build the pad as you're wrapping.
So that's the issue I have. Having to make the knuckle pad out of the same roll of gauze that you're wrapping the hand with takes a lot of time. It's unnecessary.
The Stitch Duran and the other types of branded tape. So you gotta just use regular white tape and gauze.
No fancy tape.
Welcome back to the channel. This week we're going to talk about a fight card up in Quebec, Canada. We're not really looking at the fights in general, but we are going to mention what the commentary team were talking about when they mentioned hand wrapping for the event. There were some requirements that the Quebec Boxing Board of Control wanted coaches and hand wrappers to do while they were wrapping the hands of their fighters. Some of it is okay, but some of it was a bit bizarre. Let's have a look.
And we're seeing the gauze white wrap bandages, and Mike Basil, who's doing the wrapping job on Abdullah Mason, told me that the commission here in Quebec City does not allow for the Stitch Duran and the other types of branded tape. So you gotta just use regular white tape and gauze.
No fancy tape.
No fancy tape, and just whatever they give to every fighter here, everybody's on an even playing field.
So that's not out of the ordinary. A lot of fight promotions will give you the tape and the bandage to wrap your fighters with. They don't allow other tapes to be used. Maybe that's because they're being sponsored by a company that doesn't have a marked tape. A company like Rival, for example, they may be supplying the tape and the gauze, and because they're sponsoring the event, then that's the tape you have to use. But that's not the issue. The issue is when they start talking about how fighters are supposed to have their hands wrapped.
That's what it's all about, protecting the fist, protecting the knuckles, but they don't give the gauze, do they? You can bring your own gauze, or they have to review the gauze?
I don't know about them giving it to you. I know that you cannot stack it and you cannot create the pad apart from the way you're wrapping it. So sometimes they build the pad first and they put it on the hand. This time you have to build the pad as you're wrapping.
So that's the issue I have. They're not only telling you what tape you have to use and what gauze you have to use, but they're also telling you what way you have to wrap the hands. I have an issue with that. Not everybody wraps hands the same way. And especially when they were talking about the knuckle pad, creating the knuckle pad out of the gauze. That's just a way some hand wrappers wrap hands. It's not how everybody wrap hands. Let's take a look at an example of somebody who wraps hands that way. So here we have world famous and owner of Rival boxing equipment wrapping the hands of Usyk just before he fought Tyson Fury. You can see Andy Lee in the background there. He's supervising how the hands are being wrapped. You'll also see Andy Lee put his hand in and inspect some of the gauze. This is all above board. This is normally how things happen. But I want you to have a look at how Russ creates the knuckle pad.
Russ, can I look at these two real quick?
So he creates the knuckle pad as he wraps the hand. So as you can see, he creates the knuckle pad while he's wrapping the hand. This just means that if you're not good at this technique, your fighter is going to take longer in the chair getting their hands wrapped. It shouldn't be a requirement from the commission to say, look, here's your gauze. This is what we expect you to do. You should be allowed to do whatever you want with your gauze and wrap your hands whatever way you like with your gauze. Let's take a look at the rule set to see if anything is in there. So here we are with the Quebec regulation respecting combat sports. This is the last update was on May the 1st, 2024. So this is the most recent up-to-date version of their rule set. And we'll scroll down to number 63, bandages. Contestants shall use no more than 36.56 meters, which is 40 yards of gauze, at 2 inches wide to bandage the hands. So that's 15 meters and that's 15 meters. So that's 2 rolls of gauze. The gauze may be held in place by porous surgical adhesive tape. Now, this is the latest iteration of their rule set. Nobody uses porous medical tape anymore. Porous medical tape is this stuff. It's the paper tape. It's that paper tape that you buy in pharmacies and chemists, and it's really brittle, and it's designed to go on skin, so it's not that sticky. We don't use this tape anymore. Haven't used this tape in a very, very long time. We use this zinc oxide tape. It's designed specifically for boxing, for bandaging. It's made by many different companies. It's easy to tear. And it comes in 10 meter and 13 meter rolls. Everybody's been using this for the last 10 years, well, as far as I can remember. And then it gives a length of tape there. The adhesive tape should be 1 inch wide and no longer than 3.6 meters. We don't use 3.6 meters. We use close to 8 or 10 meters per hand. And I can guarantee you, everybody who was getting their hands wrapped backstage at that show were using a hell of a lot more than 3.6 meters. So what I'm trying to say is that just because the commission comes in and said, listen, this is how we want you to wrap hands, hold your hands up and respectfully say, I'm going to make a knuckle pad out of one roll and I'm going to wrap with the other roll. I'm not wrapping my hands the way Russ Amber wraps his hands because maybe he's supplying the gauze, maybe he's supplying the tape, but I'm not doing it his way. I will do it my way and I will do it legally and fairly. Also, in the video clip, it said no stacking, but it says here, before the bandages are applied, a strip of adhesive tape, 15 centimeters or 6 inches long, 1 inch wide, may be used on the back of each hand. So it's saying you can stack. Now, it's not a lot of tape, but it's still tape. So the Quebec Boxing Commission have said there's no stacking, even though it says stacking in the rule set. You must use the tape we provide, even though they're providing tape that's not in their rule set. And then they're saying, and you also need to wrap your boxer's hands a certain way. I was a coach there. I'd be putting my hand up and I'd be saying, look, listen, I like to create a knuckle pad a certain way, and I like to wrap my hands a certain way. So I respectfully would like to do it the way I want to do it. Of course, if they said you can't fight unless you do it this way, then I would wrap it their way. But I would do it respectfully and I would stand my ground. But let's have a look at the different types of knuckle pads that you can use in boxing all over the world, depending on what regulations, what governing body, what sanctioning body you're working for. But I just want to read you something from a book, and it's Angelo Dundee talking about Muhammad Ali's hands and the knuckle pads he used. To demonstrate his point, Dundee refers to a picture of Ali, whose sometimes brittle hands Dundee wrapped with, of all things, sanitary napkins. I used to use Kotex on his hands because he had protruding knuckles. Dundee says, now I use this technique to this day to protect a guy's hands. And that's from the book Cornermen from Ronald K. Freud. It's a great book. I can't recommend it enough. If you're a boxing fan, I suggest you go get it. You'll find it on eBay or Amazon or wherever you get your books. It's really, really good with some amazing stories in there. I'll probably make more videos around some of the stories that are in there. So anyway, let's get into all the different types of knuckle pads that you may use when wrapping a fighter's hands, including a sanitary towel that Angelo Dundee used for Muhammad Ali's hands. So here we have a sanitary towel. Just peel back the sticky tape, fold it over so all the sticky parts are hidden and all you're left with is the soft bits on the top. We can also wrap it with some gauze, and there you go, it's an excellent knuckle pad. Here we have Sting Pro Knuckle Gauze. I use this quite a bit on most of the guys' hands that I wrap. It's 12 centimeters wide and it's 4 meters long, so you can make this fit anybody's hands, big or small. It comes in a box of 12, really nicely packaged. Again, it's just a gauze and we wrap it round our hand. I like to use all of it, the entire 4 meter roll. Obviously, if it's a smaller person, then you don't use it all. And then we lay that on the knuckles, wrap around, and then we fold it back on itself. And that's the knuckle pad. And that knuckle pad is legal in 95% of all boxing organizations. Here we have a non-woven gauze swab. They're 10 centimeter by 10 centimeter squares. I have a fighter, Matty Stephen, who insists on wearing these. They fit his hands perfectly, so we use them all the time. This is what it looks like when you open it up. Again, it's just a gauze, and again, you just lay them on the hand, fold them back over each other, and you're ready to go. Having to make the knuckle pad out of the same roll of gauze that you're wrapping the hand with takes a lot of time. It's unnecessary. We want to get the fighter's hands wrapped as fast as possible. The quicker and the more prepared you are, the more efficient you'll be. So here's an example of me using those square gauze pads on Matty Stevens' hands. This was for his Muay Thai Australian title fight. He won on points, and this is exactly how I would apply this knuckle pad to his hand.
Open. Put that straight from you, Matty.
So we just lay it across the knuckles, wrap the bandage around it, get it nice and secure, and then we'll fold it back on itself. And then we continue to wrap around the knuckles. And as you can see, like, this is quick. I'm not messing about going backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards. And I have these knuckle pads already made. The inspector has inspected them. They're ready to go.
Good.
Here we have the crepe bandage. It's 10 centimeters wide by 4 meters long. So it's a little bit narrower than the Sting gauze. And it's crepe bandage, not gauze. Again, wrapping it around the hand. Adjusting it to whatever size we need. And just like the other gauze, goes on the knuckles, fold it back over, and then we can wrap the hand. And if we were asked to make a knuckle pad out of the same materials as the hand wrap, what would be supplied? Well, this is exactly how I would make that knuckle pad. So if I was in Canada, this is how I would make the knuckle pad. I wouldn't be going backwards and forwards across the knuckle. I would make a knuckle pad like so, and then I would apply it to the hand. And I would have all these made before the fighter even came to the venue. I'd be ready to go, keeping it very, very simple. So here's an example of me putting gauze as a knuckle pad. Exactly the same as any other type of knuckle pad. We lay it down, we fold it back on itself, and then we continue to wrap around, and that's the knuckle pad.
Take a fist. Open. Spread.
So that's it. The different types of knuckle pads that we use that are legal, that you should be able to do as a cutman or as a coach, just in case anyone throws you a curveball. I will say though, it's important to know how to wrap hands all the different types of way, just in case you do run into a problem with a commission or another trainer or whatever. Because remember, as cutmen and as coaches, we have to make sure that all of this is organized well before we start wrapping hands. And just to have a quick look, you know, this is going backwards and forwards, and it's not even, the knuckle pad isn't even on a boxer's hand. Like, I'm just doing it on the table. Now, if I was to wrap hands like this all the time, I would get good at it. But imagine turning up to a show and being told you had to do this. The answer is no. I will wrap hands legally in the rules set, no problems. I just want to say, I got the idea for this video from a guy in New York. His name is Michael Feeney. Thank you very much, Michael, for the idea. And I'm going to be sending Michael one of these t-shirts. It's a Complete Fighter Care t-shirt. And if you want to win one of these t-shirts, follow me on Instagram, Richie_Complete Fighter Care on Instagram. And send me some ideas of videos that you think I should make on this channel, whether it's got to do with cuts, wrapping hands, or controversy out the back before the fights. So if you know of anything, head on over to Instagram and send me a DM. Continuing on, I just want to talk about knuckle pads outside of the fight and in training. So I just want to have a quick look at Liam Harrison wrapping his hands.
I put the sponge on because my hands are absolutely fucked after years and years of just punching people in the face. I've got metal plates in this one. I broke this hand like 3 or 4 times, so the sponge over my knuckles just makes it a little bit easier and just gives that little bit more cushion. And then I just put the sponge on and then just wrap my hand as you normally would, so it gives it a little bit more cushion for my broken, feeble old hand.
Like most fighters, he only starts protecting his hands properly after he's had an injury. So it happens to the best of us, right? It's always a good idea to do this stuff before you have bad injuries. You know, as cliche as this sounds, they're the tools of the trade. Liam is an extremely powerful puncher as well, so I'm not surprised he has hand issues. Let's have a look at another power puncher and let's see him getting his hands wrapped for a training session.
I wanted to see the girl. I was thinking if you could spread. Chicago. He's a nice guy. A little spoiled. Right? Enough for my ear.
So what Kevin Rooney was doing there, Mike Tyson's knuckle was sore. So he was putting the padding over these 3 knuckles here, leaving this knuckle free. So when they would wrap the hand, there would be a gap. So when Mike Tyson would punch, the idea behind it in theory is that he wouldn't have much impact on that knuckle. But I've tried this with fighters and this technique doesn't really work that well. You're better off resting the knuckle if you can, but if you can't, pad all of the knuckles, and then what that pad will do, it will distribute the impact across the entire surface of the hand, and hopefully that will reduce some of the pain. But sometimes you just have to stop using that hand until it heals. So there we have it. I hope you enjoyed this video. It's a bit of a long one and maybe it's for boxing nerds. If you're a boxing nerd like me, this is the kind of content that I really like. I really like to make this kind of content. Again, follow me on Instagram. Don't forget to like and subscribe and comment down below anything that you think we should be looking at. And let us know, did you have any hand problems when you were boxing? Or what do you use for your knuckle pads when you're wrapping hands?